So why isn't there an easy, simple time management system for us creative entrepreneurs? Whether you're a writer, a blogger, a podcaster, a YouTuber, why are we still using these old, outdated time management systems that were meant for office workers in a traditional work environment? Well, today I'm going to introduce you to my 90-day power system, 4 simple steps to increase your productivity and your focus. Let's get started. Hey messengers, welcome to the Market Your Message show. I'm your host, Jonathan Milligan, and author of the book, Your Message Matters. And I'm excited today to walk you through my personal productivity system. This is personally built for those of you who are thought leaders, you're creatives, you want to write, you want to speak, teach, coach, you want to build an audience online. But you're trying to figure out, how do I marry that with all of these older time management books? We're going to get to that, and I'm going to show you what actually works. So this is not going to be a complete deep dive, but this will help get you started. So here's what you're going to discover. You're going to discover why annual goals rarely work and what to do instead. I'm going to talk about how to design your ideal week, especially for those of you who say, Jonathan, I'm writing, blogging, and podcasting on the side. We'll get to that. What timeboxing means and how to use it. Also, if you're wondering, how do I even get started, Jonathan? I'm still trying to figure out how to build that business or what business to even start. Then I highly recommend you grab a copy of my latest book. It's called Your Message Matters: How to Rise Above the Noise and Get Paid for What You Know. And after 11 years of running an online business through blogging and podcasting, this is my roadmap. This is one that I have cultivated over the years, and I want to give you a free copy. Yes, you can go in the bookstores and get a copy if you want one today, but I'd be happy to send you a free copy. All we ask is that you pay the shipping and handling. Just go to yourmessagemattersbook.com and get your free copy. All right, so let's get into these 4 steps, and I think this is going to be really helpful for you today, all right? So step number 1 is actually, before we even get to the steps, because I threw this in at the last minute, it's important that you understand a principle that I learned probably 10 years ago, and it revolutionized everything. It's called Parkinsons Law. Now, here's the way that I define Parkinsons Law, and this is a writer-downer, okay? Work expands or contracts to fit the time we give it. Work expands or contracts to fit the time we give it. What does that mean? Here's what that means. For most people, they will set their annual goals in January, beginning of January. And for most people, if you told them to put a deadline on their goal, it would be December 31st, right? And so what happens is, for most people, and this was me included, I would have 5 to 10 goals, and they all had a December 31st deadline. But you know why that doesn't work? Because of Parkinson's Law. If you give yourself 12 months to lose the 20 pounds, or if you say, my goal is to write a book this year, you're going to procrastinate for the first 6 months. And you may even forget about the goal altogether. And that's why Parkinson's Law is so powerful. So one of the fundamentals of my system is it's in 90-day increments. That's why I call it the 90-day power system, because every 90 days, I get a restart. I get to evaluate, how did the last 90 days go? Okay, how can I improve the next 90 days? And I don't have to wait an entire year to set a New Year's resolution to improve my life. I get to do it every 90 days, and it's a rhythm that works. Not only that, but I accomplish my goals much faster. Because if you have a deadline, if it's January 1st, and you say, I want to have a draft of my book written by April the 1st, now suddenly I only have 90 days. Now I have to really break that down and figure out, whoa, I got to get with it. I don't have time to procrastinate. This is why I think 90-day goals is powerful. Now, there's 4 steps to this system, and I'm going to share them with you and give you some of my highlights. All right. And by the way, if you want a complete deep dive into the worksheets, all of the questions, exactly how to implement my system, I taught this system to our lab members in our private membership. So Fasttrack Lab is a membership that I run, and it's kind of like a Netflix for content creators. And if you want to get access to this 4-hour bootcamp, then all you need to do is go to joinlabnow.com. Joinlabnow.com. When you join, it's just $45 a month. So $45 gets you access. You can go watch this 4-hour bootcamp, take all of the notes, the workbook, everything that's there, and go and implement it in a deeper way. But today, I'll give you enough to get you started. All right. So here's step number 1, review. Every 90 days, I review. And I have something that I've put together called the Magic 10 Questions. Now, this is something I compiled from lots of different sources. So from like the book Traction, for example, if you've never read it, it's a great business book. From Traction, from Free to Focus, from Michael Hyatt, some questions from Stephen Covey and a lot of his work. It's just compiled from lots of different places. And I don't have time to go into all 10 questions on this episode. In fact, I just might do it in one episode alone because there's a lot to it. But let me give you what I consider to be 3 of the more important questions. So the first thing I do is I'll sit down every 90 days and I'll just answer these questions. Now I can just answer them in my mind as I read it, or I can even journal them out. But here's kind of 3 questions to kind of get started, help you get started. Number 1, how am I doing in the areas that matter most? How am I doing in the areas that matter most? If you're not asking that question at least every 90 days, if not sooner, what's going to happen is your life's going to drift. You're going to have parts of your life that are going to drift because you are not being intentional with your life. Now, for me, this is reviewing my life plan. Now, the life plan I currently really like is Donald Miller's Hero on a Mission. And he talks about setting a 10-year vision, a 5-year vision, a 1-year vision, and you kind of break it down from there. That's something that I like to review is how am I doing in the areas that matter most? Because I'm more than just a businessman, right? I'm also a father. I'm also a husband. I'm also a church member, a deacon in my church. So how am I doing in the areas that matter most? That's one of my Magic 10 questions. Here's another one that I like. What's working and not working in my business? What's working and not working? So I start with what's working. I look back over it and say, what did we implement in the last 90 days? What are some wins for us to celebrate? And on the reverse side, what's not working? What do I need to bury? I need to cut off. I need to just say, let's stop doing that. There's no reason why we need to keep doing that. And so evaluating what's working and not working in your business is key. And then let me give you one more. What's my top 3 marketing strategies this quarter to grow my business? This one always challenges me because if you're going to do this thing as a business, you've got to develop some marketing strategies, right? And so it might be like, what? I said I was going to get on 100 podcasts to talk about my book this year, and I haven't really been focused on that. So what am I going to do differently this quarter to get on more podcasts to talk about my book, right? So what are my top 3 marketing strategies this quarter to grow my business? The reason why this is so important, and this happened to me early on in my business, online business career, and this is what can happen to us. What can happen is we are kind of playing around with business. We're doing a lot of things, but we're not doing things to grow our business, right? We're constantly tweaking our website. We're looking at it, think, oh, this image should be over here, and maybe I need that tagline. Maybe I got to work on that. But the truth is, that's not growing my business. So what are the top 3 marketing strategies this quarter that I'm going to focus in on to grow my business? Make sense? So that's 3 of the 10 questions. Then next, step 2 is commit. It's time to get specific and to commit. This is where I look over all the different ideas that I have, the different projects that I could do, and I establish my top 3 goals. Now, we work hard as a business, and as my business has grown and I've got more team members now, we establish 3 goals for the quarter. And then, of course, I have 3 goals for me. But as a business, I'm looking at 3 goals. What are the top 3? And honestly, sometimes this is hard because it's like, well, I've got like 8 things. I got 5 things. But we work really hard to get specific on 3. And this needs to have a deadline. Not only that, but it's got to be broken down. So let me give you an example. You remember I said earlier, if you have a goal of saying, I want to write a book this year, and you put December 31st and it's January of that year, you'll procrastinate. But if you say, I want to have 30,000 word manuscript by April 1st, and it's January 1st, then I know, whoa, I got to really start breaking this down, right? I just got real specific. I've got to figure out, well, wait a minute, 30,000 words means about 2,300 words per week. So I got more specific. Do you see how that will increase your focus? Because now you've gotten more specific. So you want to have a deadline. You want to start it with an action verb, all right? So what most people do is they'll just put something down like membership site. So you want a membership site. Well, wait a minute. What about launch a membership site and get my first 50 members by April 1st? Then it's measurable, it's specific, and it's got a deadline attached to it within 90 days, right? And then the last little tip I want to give you here is make it visible. You have to make it visible. Typically what I'll do is I'll write it on the whiteboard. I got a whiteboard in my office. My wife also has an office in our home, and she's got it written on her whiteboard as well. We are reviewing it every single week with my leadership team. We are looking at those top 3 things, and we are giving ourselves a rating. Is it a green light? We're on track. Is it a yellow light? It's stalled out because we don't know what to do, or we've lacked focus. We're not really paying attention to it. Or red, is it just completely off track or not even started yet, right? So we evaluate every week, and I look at it every single day. All right, let's move to step 3. Step 3 is sprint. Now, the reason I like to use the word sprint is because we've got to break it down even further. It's not enough to say, oh, I want to write a draft of my book by April the 1st, but how does that translate this week, right now, so I can have something to sprint towards? Now, here's another mistake. This is a mistake I made. I would simply just take my 90-day goal and make it my weekly goal for that week. But that doesn't work. Why does that not work? Because it's not obtainable, right? It's not attainable to say, I want to write the draft of my book by Friday. It doesn't work. So what you have to do again is create a sprint project. And using this idea of writing a book, if I was shooting for 30,000 words and I wanted to write those in 90 days, that comes out to about 2,300 words per week. So I would write down in my planner or my system, write 2,300 words of your book by this Friday. Now I've got something I'm looking at every single day. This is a sprint project. Now, sometimes, some weeks, I only have 1 of these. At the most, I'll have 3. So you never want to have more than 3 because you'll start losing focus and traction. You're not going to accomplish them. But I have somewhere between 1 and 3 of these sprint projects. Now, you might say, well, how do you actually get them into your calendar when your life is busy? That is step number 4, and that's execute. So execute is you got to make this real. And one of the ways that you need to make it real is use a calendar. I've heard Michael Hyatt say this over the years, and it's just stuck with me. What doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. What doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. In fact, years ago, it's one of my last podcast episodes for my old podcast called Simple Life Habits. I probably shouldn't have shut it down, but I shut it down because I needed a more focus on building another business, and I was trying to build too many businesses at once. But on the episode, one of my most popular episodes is why billionaires don't use to-do lists. And it's fascinating. Most billionaires don't use to-do lists. Well, what do they use? They use a calendar. They have someone who manages their calendar and puts in the most important things. So there's two ways that you can do this. Number one, it starts with creating an ideal week. So this is something that I've learned from various people. Michael Hyatt talks about it back in the day. Stephen Covey, I learned it when I was a 19-year-old kid, how to put in the big rocks first. And it goes along with a concept that I really like called time boxing. Now, basically what a time box is I call them focus sessions. I look at my week and say, okay, according to what's already on my plate, how can I carve out 3 to 5 focus blocks? Ideally, I want them to be about an hour long. And so I'll look at my schedule and do this. Now, today, I have rearranged my schedule to where I have 2 whole days. So if you can get to that point, for example, for me, every Tuesday, every Friday are no appointment days. They're very rare that I have any appointments on it. And all I do is do my creative work. That's all I'm focused on. I wake up, I get my cup of coffee after I've exercised in the morning. I check in with the world on my emails, then I cut it off and I do nothing but work, do my deep work, my creative work, whether that's writing a book, recording videos for the courses in my insider program. That's where I get the most work done. Okay. Now, back when I wasn't able to work full time, what I did is I started time boxing 5 to 7 a.m. Monday through Friday because I couldn't do nights. Weekends didn't work because I had a young family at the time. The kids wanted to play with dad. Dad wanted to play with the kids, but nobody was bothering me from 5 to 7 a.m. So that's how I got started. And that's honestly, when I got serious about those 10 hours a week is when my business started growing, when my career coaching blog started getting traction to the point where I was making decent enough income to make it my full-time work. So again, those are the steps. How do you like those? Those are the steps that you need to walk through. Again, let's just recap these real quick. Step 1 is review. Do you have some review questions to make sure you're not drifting too far in life? Step 2 is to commit. Have you committed to a specific constrained amount of goals? So constrain the number of goals and constrain the time it takes to complete them. Very important. Step 3 is to sprint. Do you have a system broken down to what 3 things you got to get done this week? And they're very specific. And finally, step 4 is to execute. This is where every morning I time box my schedule even in greater detail so that I know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and I work hard at trying to keep myself accountable. My calendar keeps me accountable. What doesn't get scheduled doesn't get done. And that has worked for me. So again, if you're like, hey, Jonathan, I want to know more about this online business thing. How do I take something I'm passionate about and turn it into a platform? Well, it's all in the book, Your Message Matters. You can go grab a free copy by going to yourmessagemattersbook.com. All we ask is that you pay for the shipping and handling. We'll ship out the book to you, and you can learn how to build a business from your passion. All right, so that's it for this episode. I hope this was helpful to you. And what would you like for me to cover on future episodes? Let me know. Also, take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or even review our show so that we can let more people know about it. So until next time, never forget, your message matters.